Welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we have made it, everyone. We are on the final book of the Fable of Happiness series by Pepper Winters. Now, if you have not listened to book one and book two's review, those links are going to be available down below in the description section. Once you finish those reviews, come and join us as we dive into book three. We pick up right where we left off. This guy's asking Gemma, who is she? What is she doing here? And she's not answering any questions. He's giving vibes to her. And she knows she needs to walk a fine line when she looks at him because he looks very dangerous, but there's something very familiar about him. And she starts calling out different names of the kids from Fable. And so she says Maliki, Neo. He tenses up, but those aren't his names. And then she thinks about one person in particular that Cassine had described. Something was off with this person. Apparently at one point this person uh was gone for like 2 weeks, and when he came back he was never the same. And so she says Jareth, and that made him go stone, and she knew this was him. So the man, of course, is like, you know more than what I thought. But he wants to know where Cassine is. He saw the parable around her, and he proceeds to tell her um, that he knows more about that than she does. It was the very thing that had broken Cassine. And, he says, he kept trying to get Cassine to stop volunteering himself for the others, because sometimes he would get taken so bad that he would have blood coming out of his anus from being used so much. He couldn't eat. It was just awful. The stuff that he went through enduring to just keep the other family members from having to take it. And the parable was one of those things used that wound up actually breaking Cassine. So he wants to know, where is he? She's not answering. He grabs her. I think he might even kissed her lips. And it was more so not a kiss of passion, but like this kiss of death. And she, of course, was like, please just let me go. He's not listening. She had made a comment to him about the fact that, how could you leave your brother here for 11 years? And he screamed back at her, you think I wanted to leave him here? And then he screams again at her, and he's like, I want to know where he is. And then all of a sudden, boom, something comes out of nowhere, and she is immediately out of Jareth's arms and pushed him into the black. It is our boy Cassine, and he beats the absolute crap out of Jareth. Like, it felt like everything he'd been holding in, he unleashed it. The darkness, the rage, all of it. He unleashed it and damn near killed Jareth. He even yanked out a fistful of Jareth's hair. Gemma had to scream for him to stop. She told him it was Jareth, and then everything went white, and then everything went black. Gemma felt torn, okay, between the two, because we've got one who's hurt, and then we've got her Cass, right? And so she held Cass's head in her lap, and Jareth asked her if this happens to him a lot. And she was like, he had a really bad fall not too long ago. But Jareth was like, that doesn't have anything to do with the fall. So eventually, Cassine comes to, and him and Jareth, they just stare at each other. Cass eventually apologizes. They embrace in a tight hug. Cass is like, I'm sorry I wasn't able to protect you. Jareth is like, I'm sorry it took so long for me to come back. Asked where the others, are they okay? Jareth said he didn't know. Cass was like, what do you mean you don't know? And he said, let's just say you weren't the only one trapped. And then he took his backpack and he was like, we'll talk about it later. And he just headed inside of Fables. They're all in the library. Jareth had looked over at the space where, you know, Kasim was, and he made a comment about Storymaker. And he said to him that, how did he put it? Like he didn't have a heart anymore. That's what Jareth said about himself. Like it got broken in his teen years. This is when, he went away for those 2 weeks. He was never the same after that. Gemma goes to get some painkillers and something for them to eat. They have this little conversation, and he wanted to know, of course, where the others were. Kasim wants to know. And Jareth wanted to know why he was still here. He's like, why are you still putting everybody else above yourself? You need to put yourself first. You need to get away from this place. This place is sick. He knew Gemma's full name. He was like, Gemma Ash, because he had saw the Jeep and, of course, looked through her stuff. And so he had her information. And they just had a real moment where they were just kind of flowing the honesty between the two of them. So even though they're, being honest with each other, Jareth is still not saying where the other family members are. And I don't know if he's doing that because he doesn't know, or if that's one of the things that he's not being honest about. We don't know at this point. Um, he did ask, Cassine, like what the girl meant to him. And of course, Cassine is like his everything. And Jareth was like, I can tell the way you look at her, the way you watch her. He's like, you loved us, but her, you give your life for her. That's a whole nother level. And Cassine knew it was true. He also knew he needed to talk to Jim and explain why he had run. So Gemma comes in with some pasta, the last bit of what she had, and some painkillers. And he tells her, appreciate it. And then her and Cass sit together, like this coffee table. And, Cass just felt lucky, of course, to have her there, to have her love. But he was also very happy and thankful to have his brother Jareth there as well. So even though he knows he's different, it's very clear, you know, um, he also wants to figure out if, he can have this new beginning with Gemma. Because he wants that, but, he's got a lot of issues going on. He's got a lot. Um, so, Jareth made a comment that, he kind of, he'd been through a lot of stuff too, but he didn't go into detail, but he did admit he pretty much taken every drug there was. Um, Again, we don't know everything he's gone through. We just getting like little bits of pieces, and we just I'm waiting, like, come on, give me more, give me more. We switched to Gemma. She, of course, was hoping that, he would sleep with her in the conservatory. But Cass didn't. He told her, I can't. He worries. He doesn't want to hurt her because when he has those, you know, he's not in control, and she could be the one that winds up getting hurt. So he's just not going to do it. That of course does worry her. Because she doesn't really trust Jareth. No, no, no. Cass said he doesn't trust Jareth completely with her. You know. Um, She understands. She lets him go. She wakes up the next day. She hears this terrible sound. She's thinking it's Cass being hurt. She runs in and sees him running like a madman. And this was the same thing he had done the previous night, running into the night, but now it's day. And even though her mind told her not to go, her dumbass goes anyway, running after him. Instead of letting him do what he needed to do, she goes after him. And I'm like, oh shit. So she was terrified he might decide to like end it all, and she didn't want him to, so that was why she ran after him. He goes to the mass grave, and this is that huge area where nothing grows, it's just dirt. And he's in a nightmare, and she does that bullshit of trying to wake him up, and it's like he's split. He knows he's in the present, but he's still stuck in this episode. And so he winds up grabbing her, and it's not that in his mind he's trying to protect Gemma, and he's saying you can't have Gemma. I'll kill you before you take Gemma. And so he starts to choke her again. She gets terrified, and she's about to pass out, and then boom, Jareth comes, knocks him out, beats him up a little. She, of course, is like, he's got a concussion. Like, why did you have to hit him in the head? And he says, hopefully it'll knock him out of his nightmare from the past. So, Jareth kind of tells her some real truth, some harsh but real truth. And he says that, you know, he had a woman at one out, and she made him feel human again. And he said, and I killed her. I had a nightmare, and I wind up killing her because he, couldn't, the same thing what Cass is going through right now, can't really differentiate. He had the same issue, and it cost him the woman he loves. And he could see the bruises around her neck, and he could see old ones as well as new. And so he asked her, how many times has he strangled you to death? She, of course, wouldn't answer him. She didn't need to. He saw the marks around her neck. And so he told her, I know you think basically love is going to prevail, right? But it's not going to happen. He's going to kill you. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. He's too stuck in this place. And he was like, I should just take him out of his misery right now. She, of course, leaps over Cass's body. She's like, don't you dare touch him. And he took out his cigarette, and he said, listen, the next time he does anything, I'm just going to end his misery. He said it's mercy at this point. No one should be stuck here. No one should have to endure this place like he has. He's like, I saw the rage in him when we were younger. It grew as we got older, as they stopped allowing him to take the places of others. The rage just kept growing because he couldn't take the pain that other people were hurting, and he couldn't help them. And that infuriated him. And it's left him unable to do anything. And what he's saying is true. I do not disagree. I think she thought that because he was making some wonderful strides a couple days or a couple hours in a day, that okay, we're moving in the right direction. But unfortunately, he regresses back to square one because his mind is broken. I'm not saying it can't be fixed, but there is a lot of things that have to be dealt with, and he's not truly ready to face them. And so he's going to keep having that burden. And even when he's ready to face them, he's got to be able to go through it, like basically going through it again. So it's a lot. So we switch back to Cassine. He's coming to. We find out what the nightmare was that he was in. Storymaker was a corpse, skin hanging off of him, and he kept saying to Cassine, oh, you brought me a really good one. So he thought he was saving her from Storymaker, as well as this other woman named Miss Snook. She used to like to torture, she liked male and female. And so she liked to torture them. She liked to put a lot of bruises on them. And so all he could think of is, I have to get to Gemma and get her away from the people that could hurt her, which are in the ground. Po man. I mean, ugh. When Cassine comes to, he sees the bruises on her neck. It terrifies him. He tells her everything he feels because he's afraid if he doesn't say it, he's going to forget it. He tells her how much he loves her. He said last night he remembered. He remembered how beautiful the bath was and everything that they said to each other. And he also had remembered the RAPE as well. Which probably is what could have triggered that nightmare that he had anyway. So they wind up kissing, and it was like a really short fuck because he slammed into her. Because she kept begging him, like, please just fuck me, just fuck me. But he wanted to go slow. And that's not what she wanted. But he's like, that's what you deserve. She's like, no, I need you. And so then he slammed into her. And she was just saying to him, she's like, stay with me, stay with me. But he felt himself being pulled into the black. And he, pulled out of her. And then his vision went white. And they're on that, keep in mind, they're on that grave. Okay? But he wanted to be inside of her where the evil people were, to show them that there was love in this world and all this type of crap. And Jareth he's still out there. So this is all happening right him. He's sitting, under a tree. We switch back to Gemma and we find out that it actually kind of turned her on that someone was watching her. But it also made her feel safe because she knew if Cassine lost it, there was someone to stop him. But I think it was a good, again, slight improvement. He pulled out of her because he knew he's about to go, pulled into a crazy place. And so he stopped himself. That's a good thing, you know. So then Jareth comes over and is like, Cassine covers up his dick and, but he can't, he can't touch his dick. He still has that issue. And so Jareth goes, oh, you still got that phobia? And, then he said something about their session. He's like, I've seen, you all are less interesting than two virgins. So then they leave. They go in the house because he went into the library because there was some drink in there. And what happened was he had gotten drunk. He stayed drunk for like a year. Cassine did. And there's only like a couple bottles left at this point. And so they're in the library. So they all go in there and they all have a drink. And he admits that, he tried to drink himself to death. And Jareth was just kind of like, oh, you tried that too? And they're just having these conversations. And they can say things without fully saying everything about it because they experience that same type of trauma. They have these triggers. Jareth pretty much let him know, if you want to be free, we got to let all this shit out, And Jareth told a story of how Storymaker fucked with Cash but never stuck his dick in him. Like, he would do things to mess with his mind. Like, he would make Cassine watch while he fucked Kale, So he also liked to strangle Cassine. And he would do it at any time. Like, Cassine could be walking down the hallway. He'll just come up to him, choke him, and strangle him near death. And that used to make Storymaker hard. He was a sadist. He got off on bringing pain to people. And so that was a game for him, how much pain he could make Cassine endure. Jared then starts talking about the time that they both got RAPED together, him and Kate Cass, and that a lot of times with the guests, they were just so evil, like, oh. But he let him know, you tell me what you need, I'll give it to you. If you need death, I'll give you death. If you need me to tell the parts that you can't, I'll do it. He's like, hopefully I can be your savior the way you were to us. And so he spoke of how, um, Kasim forgot who he was as a person, just trying to help us, you know? And she, of course, is worried as she's listening to him talk about this stuff. And she's afraid this is going to break him. This is going to push him too far. But Jareth is like, it's going to keep happening until he kills you. So we got to deal with it. And you keep burying this stuff thinking it needs to be buried, but it has to be released. It's all the filth, but you have to release it. We also find out what pushed Kasim to go ahead and destroy these evil people. They had left out after being tortured, him and Jareth, and he heard Storymaker talking. And he basically was like, those two are going to be a problem. And also saying that, we need more children. We need a fresh batch. So it sounded like they were going to get rid of them as well. So it was like, damn near, it was a, kill or be killed. And the fact that Storymaker was saying it's time for a new batch, they're too worn out. That was when he knew, I got to take them all out. Like, that's it, because I got to stop them from bringing more children here and doing this to more people. So, um, he still had good with him. Cass still does. We can tell, even though the twisted games and the things that happened to him, there is still good. And Storymaker knew it, and he got off on breaking people, and he kept trying to break the two of them because they were the strongest ones. And it's almost like, if I can't, at this point, I'm realizing, even though he did break them, because Jareth was never the same, Kasim was never the same either. So he did break them to an extent, but it never fully took out all the good in them, and that's what he clearly was trying to do. You know, some people get a kick off of having complete control and power over someone, and we can clearly see Storymaker is that type of person. Clearly, I mean, he named himself Storymaker to let you know, I control this. I decide what this will be. That's complete and absolute control. Gemma, of course, told Cass, listen, you tell me when you're ready to talk. She, of course, is terrified of triggering him. So she wanted him to know, whatever you're comfortable with sharing with me, that's what you can share with me. Um, she didn't want every fucking detail. Just whatever he was okay with unleashing. And so Jareth got the party started and told him, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not leaving out of here until you can jack your own dick off. He's like, I'm not leaving here until you do it. You've got PTSD and you've had it for too long. He's like, the first thing he did when he got away from there was he hauled off in a hotel, got himself drunk, and just jacked off all night. Because he refused, you know, to let someone have power over him like that again. It was like this was his dick and he was going to pull pleasure from himself. And nobody was going to touch him again unless he decided they could. And he's like, you're going to have to do it, because if you don't, I'm not leaving. You know? He's like, I don't want to have to come back here and then see you both killed and now I got to dig two graves for you. He just is a trip, but I like him because he says what it is, and that's how it needs to be, because tippy toeing around the stuff, it ain't help nothing. So Gemma starts to kiss him, guiding his hand to his dick. He freaks out a little bit, but eventually he starts, you know, rocking into her, allowing himself to touch himself. And he, what did Jareth say? I forget what he said. He said something to him. Um, but the issue with Cassine was as he was touching his dick, he's thinking of, because you got to remember too, they done had a little liquor too, but you know how when it comes to liquor, I'm like, you know what, it just gives you the, it gives you the, the balls to do what it is you want to do anyway, so in his head though, he's hearing what the people would say to him, which was, get yourself off and then we're gonna fuck you, right? So these things are so stuck in his head, they're so connected to this act, and he was trying to push through and enjoy himself, but at this point he just wanted to be inside of Gemma, and he wasn't finna do it in front of Jareth. And so Jareth was kind of like, it ain't nothing I ain't seen before, he saw him earlier. He's like, that girl deserves better anyway. So he took Gemma and they left. So they go, he takes her to one of the rooms, which he doesn't sleep in there, she won't either. But he took her in there. They have a nice hard fuck on the bed. He ate her pussy, everything. And then when they were done, Jared's ass pops up. And she felt him there, but she didn't care. She was just in her own space with him. He just kind of faded into the background. Um, so I think two things can be true at once. I think, yes, he wants to make sure that Cassine does not, hurt her, but I think he probably like watching too. He might have a little kink. Um, he does say that was a lot better. And I was like, he is just hilarious to me, this character. He also found the key to the parable. So they unlocked each other. And it was this freedom, that came. And it made him a little apprehensive because, he's letting her go, right? She now has the ability to be free from him, and that does freak him out. And she's also a little weary of Jareth because he bulldozes. She can't get a full read on him. And she could with, Cassine, but she can't really do that with Jareth. And that kind of bothers her. And the fact that he's like to just bulldoze through things is a little much for her. But I just think he's lived in the real world longer enough. He's able to mask certain things so you can't read him as well. And he likes it that way. He doesn't want to show fear, but at the same time, he's had some tales. If she moves too fast, he turns a certain way. His eyes light up a certain, like, he still has tales because he still has triggers. There's still trauma. That was a lot of years of going through this stuff. But I don't think he's a bad guy. He doesn't appear to be at all. Jareth is like, I'm gonna go get me something to eat. And, Cassine is like, don't go eating everything. We don't have enough for winter, X, Y, and Z, you know, all that type of stuff. And he's like, you were going to stay here and you didn't have enough food, for the both of you. And he was just like, just don't fuck up, brother dear. He was just amazed at the fact that he's still like planning on trying to remain in this house. So then Cassine and Gemma take a shower, and we find out Cassine has been fighting blackouts all day, like throughout this session, their fuck session. He wanted to stay present and it wiped him out. you know? She brings up the possibility of leaving, and he, you know, kind of looked at her. He's like, "You want to leave?" You know? He's like, "This is your home now," you know? But then it was like he knew he couldn't force her to stay, and it still hurt him that she wanted to leave. But she was like, "I want to be able to let my family know I'm okay. You know, I don't want them just to continue to worry." And then of course she told him about the PLB and what he, and he felt like, all these people are going to come around. He's not ready to be introduced back into society. He can't be around civilized people. He knows he's not ready for that. And he apologized. He's like, "I didn't mean to snap at you. I really didn't." He's like, "We'll talk about this at another time," because he was starting to shut down. It was too much for his mind. And I kind of thought, like, I don't know why she would feel to think that was that situation, even though she had no idea that he was fighting the blackouts, right? She had no clue about that. But again, it's like, it's okay when you overload him, but it's not okay when other people overload him. You know what I mean? That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from her, because I don't see where you would think that that would be the time to say it, especially when he was just having a conversation with Jareth and you heard him talking about being there for winter, so you knew he still wanted to stay there. They get out the shower, they put clothes on, they leave out, they hear these boots, and it's Jareth, and he's in the dormitory, and they go in there and he's reading the book which bore his name, or bared his name, and it basically almost it turned into a self-fulfilling prophecy. Jareth is a dragon. This woman comes, visits him every day, for like 2 years, and then he finds out she's actually married. She's not his, and he winds up killing her, and her bones are left in his cave. And this again sounds like what happened. He found a woman, he loved her, she wanted him, and then his rage wind up killing her because he didn't deal with his issues from the past. Probably having those same blackouts, you know? So it really does seem like Storymaker was about mental torture, making them become who he decided they should be. Ultimate control. He had picked their names, you know, I'm sorry, he had them pick their names. And in them picking their names, it's like they picked their life story, you know? Which is absolutely wild that someone can get into your mind mentally. Think how long it's been, like 11 years now since Storymaker's been gone, and the effects are going to be with them honestly forever. I think they'll probably be able to survive a lot of, survive maybe, but those effects are going to be there. That's something. But people who want power and control over people, they're going to do those type of things. Um so I mean, I feel bad for them, for both of them. I really do, because they just been through so much. Oof. So he goes, our boy Jareth, no more need for this. And Jareth took a portion of that book. He had put bourbon on it because he had the bottle of bourbon that they had been drinking, lit the bitch on fire. It caught fast. Cass is trying to, put it out, put it out. Jareth, help me. Jareth is just standing there. He goes, it needs to burn. She, of course, is like, oh my gosh, like it's black smoke filling up. Jareth tells her, let it burn. Then he won't have a choice but to go with you. But she felt like, I can't force him into that decision. That's not right. So she ran, went outside to get the water hose, the one that he used to fill up the tub for her. It wasn't long enough, so now water's getting everywhere. So she went, got buckets. Cass comes down trying to get the buckets, throw it back, but it's just, this shit's starting to go. And now Jareth is going in other rooms, lighting shit up. He's going to burn this place down. And she realizes this place is not going to survive this. We got to get out of here. Jareth said, y'all won't be able to survive the winter. You shouldn't be living like this anyway. So he he took the option away. So she goes and gets her backpack. and stuff. And she had to pull Cass out of the house because to him, this is his home. This is all he knows. And so they get outside, and Cass is worried about Jareth, and she's like, "Don't worry about him. He's good. He's going to get out. This was his purpose. He was coming to destroy it. And you clearly. And I think he was going to do that whether Cass was there or not. He was coming to burn that house down. And to him, and it's a house of horrors, and I totally understand. And I just I commend his decision. I'm with him. There are explosions, like it hit the kitchen. Then Jareth appears from behind them, and we get a little bit more detail, just a little more detail about everyone. So he says, when Cassine asked him about the others, he said, uh, Quell was the only one that might have gotten away, the last I saw. But there were people waiting for us on the outside. So they had guards. And so they just snatched them up and put them somewhere else to serve. And they got done horrible. So it looks like maybe one person might have survived this. And the rest of them just kept getting taken, you know, and back in servitude. It never stopped. And he would listen different times when Storymaker would say things. And he's now on a mission because he knows this is a worldwide situation where they're taking orphan foster kids, different ones. And he plans on going and destroying all of them. He wants to find all the places. So he asked someone on the internet, he had someone, let me say it correctly, scouring the internet for different words and information that he had heard Storymaker say over the years. And when he saw the one from Climbers Anon, uh, the tech guy apparently removed all that footage from the internet about it. And so if her brother had tried to go back and look for her on what she had sent him, there's nothing there. The dude took it all off. And so he's like, his mission, he's going to go slit their throats. And then he's going to set the people free, and he's going to set all the houses ablaze. And he's going to enjoy doing it. So now, of course, Cassine is like, you can't do this by yourself. You need someone to watch your back. And he said, listen, you took care of us while we were here. You had our backs, and that's great. But I'm going to do this alone, and I'm going to enjoy it, you know? And it hurt Cassine to know that after everything that had been done, they were still suffering. They were in a system of sick people. And I mean, I was just floored because I was so hoping they all got away. I really was. And the fact that they just got sent somewhere else, I shouldn't have been shocked that there were guards outside of someplace so secret. You know what I mean? I shouldn't have been shocked. But for whatever reason, I just didn't think about that. I really didn't. Cassine is trying to go with him, but he says, no, you got Gemma Ashford. You're good. You don't need me. And so he walks off into the night. And then because there's a helicopter coming, and it's dropping water, and he's like, that's my cue to go. And that's when he left. So then we switch back to Cassine. They're in a helicopter. He's about to spaz out. This is a lot of new stuff. It's overwhelming his senses. He's trying not to pass out. He's trying not to go into rages. It's a lot going on for him. They don't give the people in the helicopter too much information. We find out they saw the place ablaze, that when they came, it lit up the sky. And so they didn't even know there was a house back there because there's nothing on record. There's no permits. There is nothing saying that there's a house back there, because you got to remember they were running off of hydropower. So, and solar power. So, who the fuck is going to know that there's a whole ass mansion back there? There's no way of knowing. And so they get to the hospital. It's a lot. Remember, he's never been in a hospital. To his memory, he doesn't remember it in a hospital. And he's freaking out because he thinks they're going to try and take Gemma away. And he asks Gemma to, prepare him when the doctor comes in, because he doesn't want to freak out too bad. And she says, they're going to evaluate you. They're going to ask you some questions. We'll probably have to stay overnight for observation, and then we'll go home. And of course, she's talking about her home. And he's like, where do you live? And she says, it's a few hours from here. I'll get us a car and we'll go. So then the doctor comes in, and, she starts telling everything and unleashes. And Cass is pissed. He's like, shut up. Like, why are you telling these people everything? She's, talking about the sick, twisted stuff, how they hurt people, all this kind of stuff. The doctor's writing all this stuff down. And here's the thing, I don't trust anybody, right? I wonder who knew what. I'm like, is the doctor a part of this? Is the police force going to be a part of this cover up? Like, because you don't know how high it goes when it's a worldwide situation. You know what I mean? And when it's worldwide, it's got to be protected by something. You know? So she kept talking to the doctor. She told him about, he's concussed. I'm worried about that. She made up the story about him saying that he was a climber, um, and stuff like that, and he was hiking, and that's how they met. But her saying the other stuff, I feel like it already alerts the doctors that, there's a whole issue. So her story didn't, I'm like, that's not going to fully make sense. You know, it just not. So then we switch back to Gemma's POV, and we find out they've been at the hospital for about 3 days. They've run a lot of tests. Most of them, of course, are on our boy Cassim. He has a consultation with a concussion specialist, and he's going to go do that by himself because he stayed with Gemma the whole time because she knew he needed her to be there. And so while he was at his appointment, a woman doctor, or I'm sorry, a psychiatrist comes up to her and says that, basically the doctor has suspected with the bruises on her neck that domestic violence was an issue here, right? And so they basically want her to know this is a safe space, that she can talk, tell them X, Y, and Z. She went through the whole thing, and the woman was like, I was with a guy that had issues, and this is what made me want to go into this line of work. And she kind of lets her know it's going to be a tough road. It's a lot of trauma. It's going to be, really a really hard road. And Gemma's like, I have the funds, so we'll get through it. Girl buys her, she buys a cell phone, um, and she talks to Josh. He, of course, is relieved because we find out he had even come out to that park looking for her, but of course, no one knows that this place exists, so they didn't know how far to go back. And, he was just so worried about her. He says there's a lot of talk on your YouTube channel, people coming up with theories. It's a lot. I've tried to, you know, keep mom away from it. Thankfully, she doesn't know how to use YouTube, but there's still news coverage, and it's just been a lot. And he was so relieved to hear her voice. He was mad that she'd been gone for so long, and she's like, I'm not going to go that far away for a while. I'll stay close to home. And she tells him she met somebody, and he, of course, is ready to drill the person. She's worried about that because we don't know how that shit's gonna pan out with Cassim. Like, we just don't know. And Cassim comes in while she's on the phone with Josh, and she's getting nervous because when Josh found out that she was in a hospital, he's like, "Oh, I'm coming to get you right now." And she's like, "No, no, no, no. I'm getting a car. I'm driving tomorrow. I'm coming home. I'll talk to you then." And Josh was like, "Okay, well, just call." He's like, "Well, just don't call mom until you're able to see her. So call her when you get back, because she's been a wreck." And she's like, "Okay, fine," but in her head, she wants everything to be perfect. But that's where I'm like, whenever you want things to be perfect, that's normally when it's not going to be perfect. I mean, you can't live in La La Land like that. We switch back to Cassine. They're in the car. Um, they're driving. A lot has happened. He's, of course, overwhelmed still. But he does like riding in a vehicle. He's like a damn dog. I mean, good grief. Um, they taught him some techniques, the concussion doctor, when he felt like he was slipping. Um, take deep breaths, say to yourself, you're safe, you're saying you're present, and it's actually been helping him. So that's a good thing. Um, he's watching her, when she got the SUV dropped off the hospital, she just paid the bill with this magical card. That's literally what he calls it, a magical card. And the way people treat her, it was like she's somebody important. Well, that freaks him out because to him, money equates people being able to buy and do whatever they want to you. And so all these thoughts starts running through his mind. And so she could tell he's spiraling. So she pulls over because she can tell he's not comfortable. But his stomach growling, and she's like, "Are you hungry? We can get something to eat." So she goes to a burger place. They pull over, and he says, "How much?" And she goes, "What are you talking about?" He says, "How much do I owe you for everything? Like, I need to pay you back because I can't do this where I'm just taking from you." She's like, "But it's my pleasure. And he's like, "I can't do that." He's like, "I need you to keep track of what I owe you so I can pay you back." And she had said something about interest or whatever being funny. And he said, "Well, what's interest?" She just said what it was. And she said the going rate was between 5 and 10%. And he said, "Fine. And add the 10%. He's like, "If you don't agree to this," he's like, "I can't be with you." And for her, it was just like, this is a shock because she's used to people taking advantage. And to have someone who doesn't want to take advantage of her, it was beautiful. It really was to her. Um, he winds up, not wanting to feel trapped again. And I can see how that can make him feel that way. I really do. Because if you have been your only knowledge of rich people are people that harm people. So I get it. And if she's rich, she could be harmful. I get it. I feel so bad for him. Ugh. They get to her house. It's after midnight. Um, and she has a spare key and a fake rock because otherwise she would have had to call her brother because remember Cass threw her house keys, they were on her car keys, he threw those. So but then she gets a flood of thoughts in her mind and these fears hit her, which were, what if he thinks this is too small? What if he starts thinking, you know like he doesn't really want to be here and he just leaves, like all this type of stuff. And so he looks at her front yard and he's like, "Well, I can garden. That'll be a way I can pay you back." They get inside and there's papers everywhere. And he's like, "Oh, you're really messy." And he's like, "Well, I guess I'll be the cleaner too." But what happened was her brother had been there and he clearly had been going through stuff, just trying to find clues to find out where she could possibly be. It made her heart ache because it was like, damn, I really put my brother through it. She'd been gone for months. So they start kissing and he's like, "Where's your bedroom?" She takes him and to it. And normally she has to line up his cock to her entrance, but he's like, "No, I can do it." So he wound up lining it up. He did eat her pussy, and sure enough, they had a nice heart fuck. They were able to pleasure each other, and afterwards he puts his clothes on and he's leaving. She's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm gonna go sleep in the other room." She's like, "Well, we were just fine in the hospital." He's like, "Yeah, but there were other people there and I knew that. So even if I had a nightmare, somebody could come in and they could stop me from hurting you. But here it's just you and me." He's like, "And eventually we'll get to that place." He's like, "But I'm not going to do anything to hurt you and I'm not going to do anything to put myself in that position to hurt you." You know? And him having to like line up his dick to go in her pussy brought back memories, and that very quickly would have turned into a spell. You know what I mean? So it hurt her, but at the same time, again, he's thinking of her. He doesn't want to hurt her. So I know it sounds great for him to sleep with you and for him to hold you all night, but realistically, that could end in your death. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why she keeps wanting to skip over that fact. You've got to deal with that. You can't tell him to deal with his shit, but then you don't want to deal with the reality of what could happen if there's no protection. We switched back to Cassine, and he wanted to be in there with Gemma so bad, but he just knew it wasn't a good idea. He had almost too many white, where he sees white. He almost had too many of those episodes during that car ride, and he's like, he knew it wouldn't be a good idea. He wound up cleaning up her space because she has two other rooms, but one's an office and the other one's a workout space. So there's no other bed but the couch. But he was like, let me clean. So he cleaned into exhaustion, and passed out on the couch. And he woke up to someone saying, are you okay, buddy? He's in a nightmare. And then one of the guys, that he was about to kill, had said to Neo, which was the girl, that it doesn't matter. I'm already in her head. She's never going to forget me. And so Neo said, I've already forgotten you. And that's when Cass slit the guy's throat. So then he saw Josh and he thought it was Josh, right? So he woke up, and him and Josh are fighting, and he winds up throwing Josh into the TV. And Josh is like, where's my sister? Who the hell are you? And eventually she comes out the room, and she had to calm him down, and she had to tell her brother, go in the living room. He, of course, is like, I'm not leaving you with this man. And she's like, go in the living room. Don't make me say it again. So then he goes, and then Cass is like looking at her, and she's like, do you realize where you are? Do you understand? And she talked him through it. He understood. But a portion of him knew that that was her brother. But I guess the possessiveness that was in his dream, it was still like he was taking her away from him, I guess. I don't know. It still was fucking with him. So then he, of course, is like, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. He's so apologetic. And she's like, okay, well, let's go make introductions now, you know. And they head into the living room. They go in the living room. Josh, of course, is like, who the hell is this? He being messy, calling the man all kind of stuff. You look like you just walked out of jungle. Is that a leaf in your head? Like, he was just being an ass. And unfortunately, Gemma hadn't gotten a story together, so she kind of just told the truth. Of course, Joshua was like, I knew he did something to you. You kept her, you know. He's like, I'm going to protect my sister from you and all this type of stuff. And she said, I don't need you to protect me, you know. And Cass saw everything that was happening, and he got on his knees, and well, no, he didn't get on his knees. He just went up to her and he told her, you know, how he said how sorry he was. He admitted that, you know, he threw her car keys away. This was him talking to Josh. He broke her PLB. He didn't want her to leave him. But he also shared how much she meant to him, how much he loved her, and how he wanted the end of the fairy tale for them to get married and stuff like that. And Josh was just kind of like in shock. Couldn't believe he was saying all this stuff. And nothing, I mean, if he was gonna say something to try and stop her, I mean, it wouldn't have worked anyway. And then her mom came in, and her mom just hugged her and Cass together. She just had tears in her eyes, and she was just like, oh my gosh, I miss you so much. And then Gemma whispered to Cassine, yes. So they're in the backyard, and Cass is sitting next to Josh. Josh is asking him questions. The mom is talking to Gemma, and it's overwhelming, but at the same time, he's okay because he really does love Gemma, and he really wants to be the best that he can for her. And Josh was kind of like, I heard everything you said in there, but I'm still not convinced, you know, and we'll see, because I still haven't forgiven you for trapping my sister. So then Gemma goes to get some food, and she winds up getting a different variety, like Italian, Indian burgers and fries, just in case he didn't like the other stuff. And they wind up tasting a couple of things, and she asked him, did he have um, like good meals like before when it was just him? Um, and well, not, I'm sorry, not when it was just him, like before when there were people there at story at Fables. And he said it was just enough to keep us alive, what they fed us. Sometimes we might get a roast if we bled enough or we made the guests happy from their torture. Then they would put a request in for us to have a nice meal. And she was like, oh my gosh. And she's like, I'm so sorry. He said, no, it's okay. It happened. It's in the past. And then, of course, they kiss each other. And he was just happy to be present. He's taking the pills that the doctors gave him because they're supposed to help him kind of stay um, a little clearer. And he wants to be the best he can for her. He wants to be able to eventually sleep with her and not worry about hurting her while he's asleep. Gemma's reading through all the comments the next day, and it's a lot, like thousands and thousands. I want to say it's like over 13,000 comments. But they're really dark from a lot of people. Like some people saying they're dead, she's dead, someone chopped her body up. Someone saying if I find her, I'm going to take her bones and use them as toothpicks. Like just very disturbing shit. And then there were other people who posted things that said, I hope you don't stop posting. You've really helped me. Beautiful messages. And so she decides, let me go live and let everyone know I'm okay. Of course, the comments are coming in. Everyone's really happy. And we find out that not Cash, Cass had actually slept outside. He had took his pillow and he was out there. And she didn't bother him. She's like, you know what? If that's what he needs, that's what he needs. And she let it be. So while she's talking, he comes in, he doesn't know what a live is. So everyone's seeing him and they're talking about how sexy he looks and the caveman and just everything. And he doesn't understand what's going on. And she was going to explain it to him, but she just wanted to let them know, hey, I just want you guys to know that I'm okay. But it also got her mind thinking this could maybe be a way for him to earn an income, you know? Talking about how he survived what he did and how to survive on the land, it could be something really interesting. And so she's thinking about that, and the comments get to him because it's a lot. And then he kissed her, and then there's a knock on the door, or shall I say, there's a fist that bangs on the door. It's a couple cops. They want to know where the people were that apparently did all these things. They're like, you're telling us they just up and left? They didn't kill you? They didn't take you with them? He, of course, stuck to, I don't know, but that's what happened. So they, of course, feel like, there's more to this. They're like, well, keep in touch, X, Y, and Z. They leave because it's getting pretty tense in there. And Gemma was like, we got to come up with a story with no holes because we can't have you get in trouble for what happened. Those bastards deserve what happened to them. And so we're going to make sure you don't get in trouble for it. I'm not going to let that happen. So she then also tells him, like, we need to share your story. We need to tell people about this thing that exists. And we fast forward about 3 weeks, and they've got a good routine going on at this point. She climbs during the day, she gets footage, she edits, he gardens outside. They have a nice um hard fuck when she gets home. It's beautiful. It's great. It's working pretty good. He still doesn't trust himself, so he's still taking his medication. He's going to sit with his therapist. Like, he's putting in the work, and so that's good. So while they're at the gym, she gets a phone call from her YouTube rep, and they're doing like a gala, and they want Cass to come because um it's like raising money for some charities and things like that. And they would like for him to share a story because it could truly help someone. Someone big and brute like that. If something like that can happen to them, it can happen to anybody. So she tells him, you could possibly potentially start earning money doing this type of stuff. And she's, for him, it's like Jareth is like going to like take out all the Fable people, right? But this could be a way for him to do it on this end, Let somebody else deal with the blood and gore stuff. You've done enough. So it took a couple of days, but eventually he does agree that he's gonna go to the gala. And she's like, okay, great. So she comes home from the store. She's calling his name. He's not answering. She hears his grunt, goes in the bathroom. She's thinking he's hurting himself, but he's not. He's cutting his hair. He looked online and saw what a gala was, and everyone looked clean shaven and kept. And so we find out why he kept himself looking the way he did. So they always had to groom themselves for the guests. They had to look perfect. So him not cutting his hair and letting his beard grow out and looking like a caveman, that's so he doesn't look as attractive. But he wants to insert himself back into society, and he needs to do it for himself, not just for Gemma. His only stipulation is, though, because he's cut his hair, but it's jacked up. But she was like, I'll straighten it out the best I can. But he wants to fuck while she does it. And I'm like, how the hell is that going to work? But some kind of way they do it. Um, he tried jacking himself off as well. Um, and he knows he needs to overcome it, even though it's like everything isn't going to just get better overnight. This is going to take time. If you haven't touched your dick in 12 years or 11 years, you know, I don't expect you to start doing it in 2 months. Okay? I just don't. I don't. I really don't. Because he tried and then the memories flooded him and he stopped. So, got to give yourself a little bit more time. But he's agreed to go to this gala because in his mind he does feel like, if this can help people, then that is something that I want to do. Gemma asked him, "You sure you're okay?" And he's like, "Are you asking me, am I okay with my haircut?" Because she did a really good job, a pretty good one. And when he looked in the mirror, he saw that beard was just too long. It didn't fit with his shorter hair. And so he wants to shave it. She did that for him. He looked great. He was like, oh, damn. He started feeling weird because now he looks good. And remember, with before, when he looked good, that's when they would take him and play with him. So, not play. I don't like that term because that's the term Story Maker used to try and use. But that's when they would take advantage of them and hurt them. And so he's thinking people are going to want me. This isn't good. And he remembers a guy saying that to him, saying, oh God, he's beautiful. And a guy was like, I can't wait to take his mouth. Just all kind of crazy stuff. And so she just touched him to try and calm him down, to ground him. And she let him know this is going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of people. If I got to act like the jealous girlfriend who's not comfortable with anyone touching you, then that's what I'll do. And normally she's not jealous like that anyway, but her thing was he looked so good. It was like, damn, like I'm gonna have to make sure I keep him away. So it does help him. He does feel a little settled. Um and he's cool. So then he goes and puts on his his suit, and she puts on her dress, and she's wearing this silver lavender dress, made her think about her house. And he, of course, is struck by her beauty. She's struck by him. And she couldn't even say anything. He looked that amazing. And she could see the bulge in his pants. And so she was like, let me try and help you. So she got on her knees. And he's like, you don't have to do that. She's like, no, this is going to be a difficult night. And I just want to let you use me for what you need. So she sucked him off. And she's like, whatever you need, take it from me. And So she kept sucking him. He was going crazy. And then he was like, bend over. So he bent over, took the dress off. It fell and he just pounded into her. And the whole time they were just saying these very possessive things to each other. She, of course, is happy. But she told him, if you ever leave, if you ever want to leave, you can. And he was like, shut up. I'm never leaving you, like I'm yours and you're mine. So they both came super hard. And then he told her he had taken one of his pills that the doctor had said was for his PTSD. It was really strong. It might numb him a little, but he didn't want to embarrass her or himself. And so he took it. So they get in the limo. It's showtime. And she had also given him the word freedom. At first it was bath, but then it was like, what if he forgets it? But if he says to her freedom, when it becomes too much to him, she'll know to get him out of there. They get to the gala. That pill isn't really working. This is a lot. Katie, who's friends with Gemma, comes up and she's like, I'm so sorry I haven't come by to see you. I just didn't know if it was the right time. I figured you need time to get acclimated and I didn't want to bother you. I felt bad. And Gemma, of course, was like, it's okay. It worked out. I needed that time. So then the bartender tried, or he gave a look to Gemma. And of course, Cassine felt some type of way, freaked out a little bit, but she just kind of calmed him down. We're okay. We're good. And she told the bartender, we don't need a drink. It's okay. So then a guy named Tony came up, and he's one of the head guys at YouTube. And he held his hand out, and it freaked him out because, again, the whole physical touch thing. And so she stumbled into Casey's arms, so it was like she had to get used to wearing her heels again, is what she gave as the excuse. And Cass had decided, you know what? No, I can do this. I can shake someone's hand. And so he did it. And the guy was saying, he was hoping later on that maybe he could give maybe a 5-minute speech. There's a lot of people here with money, donors and stuff like that. And that made Cass almost explode inside because it was like he's trying to whore me out, right? To these rich people to do what they want so he can get the money. And so he gave a speech to him right then saying that, people who haven't experienced don't understand that even though we may want to be normal, we never probably will be, and that's a hard thing to accept. It's very hard to survive, right? You never forget it. It's hard. And he did this whole spiel, and Gemma was crying as he was talking, and Tony, the guy, had tears in his eyes, and we get a huge revelation. And he said that not too long ago he had gotten a call that his daughter that had been snatched when she was 9 years old, she's been missing for 18 years, they found her. Her real name is Isabel Creed. And the man that found her, he wouldn't give his name. He just found her and he left. And he says, we hear her screams at night, and it's so difficult knowing what she went through, some of the most horrendous things, and that one of her marks on her wrist looked deliberate. It was from lead poisoning, but it was someone's name. It was Kas, and everything starts moving crazy for him because he knew it was Kale. And he told him, well, he's still listening. And he said, so when your video was online, it was like the highest video rated that day. And so he gets those. And when he saw it, and he saw how the guy, the caveman looking guy, and he saw the name Cass, and he went, oh my God, this must have been the person who protected my daughter as much as he could. And unfortunately, he went to hug him. It freaked out Cassine so bad he ran out of that place. He threw up, took his shoes off, he kept running. And he says that what did he say? I forget what he said, but we know this is Jareth. We know this is Quail. Is it Quail? Kale? Quell. Kale. I guess it's Kale. I don't know. I don't like it. We have her real name now, so she's going to be Isabella because I don't like the other name. So the man was just so touched, you know, and he didn't mean to scare him, but that's why he wanted him here. He wanted him there because he was like, this can really help someone. I'm not going to lie, as I was reading this passage in the book, I had tears in my eyes because it was like this man endured so much pain so that other people wouldn't have to feel it. Like, that's a whole nother level of sacrifice, you know? And it's wild because it's like he knows she's alive, right? But it's like at the same time it bombards him with all the fucking memories. And it's just, I don't know, it broke my heart to read it. Cuz I was thinking that guy was going to be somebody who, might have been a part of the ring. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. So that's what I kept thinking, like, oh shoot, what if this guy is a part of it? What if he's trying to shut him down? Like, what? I was thinking, but it's the complete opposite. We switched to Gemma. They've been looking around for him. They don't know. They can't find him. Tony doesn't want to leave her, but she eventually convinces him, go home to your wife and go home to your child. He apologizes profusely. He kept telling her, I didn't mean to do that. That wasn't my plan. It's just that when I saw him and he spoke, and knowing that he took so many RAPESs for my daughter, I just wanted to show him my gratitude. And so when he reached out, um, that, how did she say it? She's like, he'll eventually, he'll come back when he can, but it'll be okay. She wanted to kind of let him know it'll be okay, even though inside she was reeling a little bit. Um, because what if this was too much for him, you know? But the Tony guy did tell her, whatever venture he wants, I will back him 100%, you know? Um, whatever he wants to do. And she just said, okay. And so now they're just waiting for him to appear. So he switched to Cassine. He's running to the forest. And it was too much. It was too much. Uh, Knowing his family needed help. It was so much going on in his mind. He heard a growl. He thought it was a bear or a wolf. Turns out it was a dog that had been tied up to a tree. And the dog was just, snapping and all this type of stuff. And he recognized what that dog felt, being trapped. And when he went near the dog, it bit him and it held on to him. And it was a relief for him to feel pain again. And he untied the dog. And when the dog realized he was untied, he stopped biting him and kind of did a whimper, kind of realizing, okay, he was free. And the dog just fell into his lap. And he just started crying. He just released all the things, all the crying, crying for his family, crying for himself, just letting it all out. Gemma is still waiting in the same place because she didn't want to leave and go because, I mean, it's not like he know where to go. It's not like he can get back to the house. So eventually she looks up and she sees him. He's coming out of the woods across the street. She runs to him. She sees a dog next to him. She stops. She halts a little bit. They come to her and she, of course, is like, are you okay? He's like, I am now. He's like, I'm so sorry I ran. I just needed to. And her thing was, as long as you come back to me, I'm good. Do what you have to do. She looked at the dog. She already knew we keeping the dog because the dog, whatever the dog had done for him, his, Cassine eyes looked clear. And she knew this was his dog. It's what he needed, and she was fine with that. And he calls the dog Fang. I guess he bit his ass. And so she met the dog, and she it was like a match made in heaven with them. She pulled out her phone. He's like, what are you doing? She's like, well, we're gonna go to a vet, get him checked out, you know, get him cleaned up, and get some bedding for him, some food, and then we'll take him home. So they go to the vet. They get the dog all checked out, bandaged and stuff, because he had a place where the collar was like buried, like in his skin. So he's got a bandage on him from that. Um, he went in the store with her, because he hasn't done that. I think he might have been abducted from a store. He thinks so too, but he doesn't have any memories from before, so he doesn't really know. But he went in, and then he need to get checked out because that dog bit him. You know, dog can have rabies or anything else, and he need to get a shot. So they went to a walk-in clinic, and he actually went in by himself. And she stayed out. She stayed outside with the dog, and he got a shot. He powered through it. You know, and they get home. It's after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. She's exhausted. Um, and he was like, "Yeah, me too." You know, so she's going to bed, and the dog and Fang is, he's gray and white. He's following them wherever they go. They take a shower. He sat there right on the bath mat. So she went to get in the bed because she had asked Cass, come with her, and he said, "No, I'm not safe." But the dog, Fang jumped up on the bed. Even though the Fang's got his own bed, hey, he got right in that bed with Gemma, curled right up next to her. And so she closed her eyes, and Cass went down to try and kiss her, and the dog immediately shot up. And he said, "Oh, they've got a safeguard. The dog is loyal to Gemma. He loves them both, but he's loyal to her. And so if Cass were to wake up and try and hurt her, that dog ain't going to let that happen." So he said, "Okay, well, I guess I'm going to be sleeping in here now." And she's like, "Are you sure, because he had just said he didn't feel safe." And he told her, um, we needed a safeguard, you know, and we have him in Fang. And she made a comment that she was thinking about getting another bed for one of the guests, and she couldn't even get out room child because he said, "Don't say that word," and rage bubbled in him, and the dog sensed it. So this is a wonderful PTSD dog. It senses the emotions, like, for real. And the dog jumped up, and he was like, "Yeah, we good. He ain't gonna let me hurt you." Like, he felt relaxed completely for once, at just peace, because he finally was like, "Yeah, we'll be able to be together." We have our first epilogue, and it's from Gemma, and we get a little update. They've moved into a bigger home. Uh, the house that they're on isn't that huge. It's like the guest quarters or whatever it is, or house groundskeepers. But it's on the property of this bigger house, which is to help victims of, any type of abuse, or, runaways or anything like that. And they're going to have that house renovated. So it'll have multiple rooms for people. And then they're restoring, and then they're doing little updates and things like that to the house that they're going to be living in. And we find out that Cass was able to help with the down payment on this home, or shall we say with purchasing the home, because he has double the amount of subscribers that she has, and she had like 3 million, okay? But his channel has 6. And the name of his channel is SOM, Survivors of Monsters. It's doing super well. The dog, Fang, has bitten his ass a few times when he's had the nightmares, and so that safeguard has worked. He has written to Isabella, but I think um she's still not ready to see him. He's okay with that. He understood. He just sent a letter letting her know if she ever, wanted to see him, he would be there, and if she never wanted to see him, it's okay too. She just wants her to know. He just wants, let me say it correctly. He just wants her to know that he loves her and he's here for her. Her father Tony has been awesome. He keeps them updated on her, so she is getting a little better. And he also opened a charity that he got all the funds together for to help people. So I mean, it's just absolutely awesome that he's been able to help people, and it's just awesome. So, and he's able to do it on such a larger scale, you know, and he's not sacrificing himself physically to help people anymore like that. That's just beautiful. They're in the garden. Fang loves it. He loves this new place, loves his space. Um, Cassim winds up stripping off his clothes, and she's like, "What are you doing?" So he wanted to show her that he could jerk himself off. Um, it was his like kind of final barrier that he needed to overcome. He felt like if he didn't do this, then he was a fraud trying to tell other people that they can get over things when he still couldn't. And so he was able to do it because, she got herself off as well. So they had like a little masturbation session. Now it worked because, you know what, he had said that's what he wanted to do anyway, was have them be able to pleasure themselves while watching each other. So they were able to do it. And that's wonderful because that was the one thing that Storymaker unfortunately still held over him, in other words. So then we have a second epilogue, which is from Cassine. And we find that this is their wedding day. It's about 8 months. We fast forward. Him and Josh are really good friends. They go out, they get drunk, they have dinner, they watch TV. They're actually really good friends. Um, and Josh is in a relationship with Katie, and that's going pretty well. Um, he's in the shower jacking off, and he's so proud of himself because it was like he was able to do it by himself, He brought invited about 50 people to the wedding that he's helped through his channel, that they've bonded, and so he makes a lot of money. He's doing really good. uh he I forgot to mention, in Gemma's, they did go back to Fables. They went to go get her Jeep, and they actually visited Fables, and of course it's just walls at this point, and they wind up fucking there to kind of take back the power of that place or whatever. So they get married. It's beautiful, and it's crazy because Katie had actually made a comment to Gemma about the fact that, she liked her brother Josh and wish he would just like give her the time of day. And it's sweet that eventually he did, and like they have a really great relationship. So that's cool. But then Tony, of course, was at the wedding. He left and he came back, and he has Isabella. And there's a spike in him, and Fang sensed it. So he rushes over to him, and I just, oh gosh, it just warmed my heart. It's such a great, PTSD dog. Just a great dog that he senses something's wrong. Let me come over to him, to make sure he's okay. When Isabella saw him, she just fell to her knees. He ran to her. They hugged. They embraced. She's like, I am so sorry I didn't come sooner, but I just wanted to heal on my own. She knew that if she came to him, she would depend on him to heal. And she said, we depended on you too much. Um, you went through too much for us. We allowed you to do too much to spare us. You took all those RAPESs, for us. And she's like, she ran. And she did see where the others got caught, but she kept running. And what happened was she had taken a yellow ribbon to find her way back to Fable so she could get him. But they caught her. And Gemma was like, "What color was the ribbon?" And it was yellow. And that's what she had found that looked really old. But I'm thinking that maybe Jared had put that up on the internet so someone would find it, and then he took it off. I don't know if that's right or wrong. I don't know, but because he's the one that took it off of the internet. So it's like, did he find it? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? Because she had told her brother where she went, and maybe he saw on the news that someone was missing and this is where they were last seen. I don't know. Maybe so. I'm still trying to figure that one out. She thanked him, and she told him, she's doing a lot better. She's doing a lot better. She wore bigger clothes, and Cassine knew it was because she's still masking her body, because she don't want to look attractive. She wants to hide her figure, because you gotta think something like that's happening to you. You ain't trying to get no attention from nobody. And then she said that she had gotten a letter from Jareth, and she also said that when Jareth had rescued her, he had said, if he wants to, if he can fight through it, he might have found the person he's gonna marry. And that of course made Gemma smile. And so he's gonna go inside and read it by himself, the letter. And Tony was like, you go, I'll be here with them. I'll be here when you get back." And so he went in, and it was a really sweet letter. It basically had a piece of a white beard in the letter, and it was from the man who had beat him so bad that he was had amnesia for 5 years. That guy. I guess that guy was at this other residence where Isabella was, and he tells him he killed 15 people there, and that the guy, for some whatever reason, confessed to doing it. And I don't know if the guy thought he was gonna get mercy from Jareth. I don't know, but Jareth made sure he made him suffer. He was like, "I did that one for you." He was like, "You walk in the light, I walk in the dark, and that's okay. That's the way it should be." Um, he says the guy was supposed to actually get any stranglers. He wasn't supposed to like leave you there. Um, and the fact that he did, he got in trouble with the other people at that other residence. I guess the head people, he got in trouble with them. And he's lets him know in the letter, "I'm gonna get the rest of our siblings, um, blood to blood. Until we see each other again, I'll check in on you." He also told me, "You better be able to jack off your dick, because if I come back and you still can't do it, we're gonna have a real talk." But him going to get his other siblings, and that's how it ends. Now, there's going to be a Fables of Monsters, which is going to be Jareth's story, but the author hasn't finished writing that one yet. Um, so you guys be on the lookout. I'm not going to review it. This was difficult to get through because it was very dark material, like just very dark, a very dark subject. And I don't know if I could do another book or 3 books dealing with this. It's dark. I'm happy of the outcome because I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought they were going to get captured and taken somewhere. That's what I thought was going to happen. I really did. And so the fact that he's able to have that happiness, I'm excited for him. It makes my heart so happy for him because I really thought he wasn't going to get it. um but let me know what you guys think. Drop down in the comment section and let me know. If you have any suggestions, put those down in the comment section as well. If you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, I do have those available, and the links are going to be available down below in the description section. Make sure you like and subscribe and share. As always, I truly do thank you all for your support, and thank you for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.